Good morning, Muscatine. Don't you always wonder why I'm grinning when the camera comes on? You'll never know. You'll absolutely never know. Happy spring. I'm still sticking with it's spring. It still doesn't look like it. I know I say that almost every day, but I will be saying it until it doesn't look like gray mush outside. So, a couple quick things to start off the show. First thing tonight, if you're not doing anything, even if you are doing something, change your plans unless it's like super important. Tonight is the Muscatine Special Olympics versus First Responders basketball game at the Y. It's 6 o'clock at the Y. I'm assuming they're going to be in the big gym. There is a Goodwill donation. It's free. You can just come. You can donate if you want. They will have some swag there, but it'll be a blast. Wyatt and I are planning on going, so that shouldn't keep you from coming. It should tell you that's going to be an awesome event because Wyatt won't go unless it's going to be awesome. It's just the way it is. So be ready for that. Again, 6 o'clock at the Y, be there. So today we have some tealish ladies that are very vocal, very animated, and you're gonna have a blast.
You sound like puppies.
Yeah, you know, it's not setting the bar high at all or anything here. We have Meagan and Jennifer from It Takes a Village Animal Rescue. And if you guys would, just real quick, introduce yourselves and like what you do with the shelter or the rescue. And then also just kind of give people a quick overview of what all you guys have become. Because it's an amazing story. It's been, what, 2 years?
Yeah. Almost exactly. 16th of March was our 2-year anniversary.
Yeah, so quick introduction and let us know kind of what you guys are doing.
Okay. Well, I am Megan. I am the founder and president of It Takes a Village Animal Rescue and Resources. I am also the executive director of It Takes a Village Spay and Neuter Clinic, which is our newest project.
Hello, I'm Jennifer DeFossi. I am, I think, the newest addition, or one of them, to It Takes a Village. I am the grant writer and the director of public relations.
So there we go, pretty easy.
Yes.
So the funniest thing happened to me. I was down at a client's store. This was, let's call it 2 years ago, probably just over 2 years ago. I was standing at the front counter and this dude walks in. And he's like...
Big bald dude?
Yeah, big bald dude.
Got it.
Oh yeah, you know where I'm going with this. And he's like, and I was just there, we were talking about stuff, looking at, getting ready to do some advertising or whatever. And this dude walks in and he's like, hey, I want to tell you about this thing that we're doing. And it Takes a Village Animal Rescue. And I'm like, I've never heard of this before. And he's like, no, you haven't, it's new. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, at first I was like, is this one of those weird scammy sort of things? Right. Because it hadn't hit my radar any which way. So, this was like, I think you guys were like...
We were brand new.
I think it was like the day before you literally printed the flyers kind of a thing, right? And so I talked to him for a little bit and it was cool. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Kind of let me know how it goes and whatever. And, in Muscatine, people start some ideas and some go, some don't. And I was just like, okay, whatever. It's going to be cool if it works, right? And then all of a sudden, it's just boom. Like, it was so cool because, we got to see it all sort of like just happen. Like,
yeah. And we've been back here like a dozen times since.
I know.
Just a recap.
Yeah. And what's cool about it is it was a need that honestly, I think a lot of people didn't realize existed, so could you kind of walk through that the origin, like what triggered you guys to recognize this need in the community? Because I think it's one that is misunderstood a little bit.
Absolutely. So, before I started the rescue, I was on the board of directors for Paws and More in Washington. I helped out with a lot of the fundraising efforts for New Beginnings in the Quad Cities. And we're just dog lovers, animal lovers in general. And so I had started fostering. When you start fostering for these different rescues and shelters, you start to see how much these animals need you. So that's the first step, is relating to the plight of the animals itself. But we started having a lot of calls from animals in our area. Now we have a local shelter, but this was more need than what they were able to fill, and they stick to in-town stuff, you know? So we just decided we were going to start our own.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool. And that was like one of my first questions is like, how does this work with the Humane Society? And he's like, well, basically we're just like more, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, you know, because they've, you know, the Nancy Kent shelter, or animal shelter, I think is the official name, has been around for a long time. But again, they've only got so much capacity, right? And they do handle just Muscatine, and you guys are, well, don't they just handle the city basically, right? Mm-hmm. And then you guys kind of do whatever.
Do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice compliment, you know, as opposed to like competition, right?
For sure.
So that's what actually made me feel really comfortable with it is, you know, because it's kind of silly, like if you're like doing the same thing, like beating up each other for the, you know, that makes no sense.
Crazy.
Right?
We need more resources, not less.
Exactly.
For sure.
And that's always the key thing, especially in Muscatine, because we've gotten tremendously better at it as a community over the years. You know, Kim Warren was just here the other day talking about AIM and, you know, some of that stuff, and it is definitely a conscious effort. And I love that you guys had that mentality from the beginning, right? It wasn't a replace, it wasn't a, they're not doing a good thing, it's just we need more, right?
We do. There's far more animals than what we have. I mean, especially when you start talking cats. I mean, dogs, it's a no-brainer. We don't have the situation that the South does with packs of dogs running on the side of the road. We have that situation with cats in every neighborhood.
Wait, dogs running in packs along the side of the road?
Oh gosh, it's completely common.
I did not know that was a thing.
Oh, it's completely common.
Okay, well,
like
I'm glad
Texas
Muscatine.
and Oklahoma, like it's some of the saddest stuff you've ever seen as far as animal welfare.
Oh, wow. I mean, I guess I've heard of it, but I guess I didn't realize it was like that big of a thing. So you guys kind of started no space. You started doing like the fostering and like getting like, I'm going to call it almost like a foster network. Is that like of people that would foster, and like when animals would come in, you'd get them with the foster and then they'd get adopted out, and it was like this whole, and you could just watch it on Facebook, like you could just see the flow, you know what I mean, which was again really cool. So then it went from that to, hey, we need somewhere to like be, and that's
a hoarding case came up. So we had launched in March of 2021. January of 2022 we were contacted about a horrible hoarding case. It was 28 dogs and a cat in a 20-foot pull behind camper.
Yeah.
And you have to have a quarantine facility to be able to assist with that.
Yeah, and that was big news. That was like, it was just outside of town, wasn't it? Like, yeah. So, and so again, actually, we're going to take a quick little PSA here. Folks, if you see something like that, just call somebody. Even if you don't know who to call them. Call
dispatch.
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
Animal control, our animal control officer is amazing.
Yes, right, and that's what I was just going to say. Call somebody, like whoever comes first to your mind. If it's it takes a village, if it's the shelter, if it's dispatch, if it's the police, if it's animal control, it doesn't matter. Pick one. They'll figure it out for you, right? Like, just make that first call. So
agreed. That's a very important message, because that's where a lot of things get lost.
Yeah, it's just call somebody. Even if you're not sure, just call. Have them do like a welfare check like they do on people. It's not a big deal. Like,
exactly.
So hoarding.
Yeah. So we got a call about. I was actually on my way back from Oklahoma. We were on a transport when I received the message about the hoarding situation, and our volunteers are amazing. So we obviously needed to come up with a lot of funds in a very short amount of time. All of our event volunteers and foster volunteers took shifts setting up here at Hy-Vee over the course of a weekend and raised $7,500 for us to be able to secure a temporary space. It was Dave Basulto Properties.
Yep.
He had just gotten cleared to open this new building. Like the inspection was just done.
Yep.
We were the first to sign into the leases there.
Yep. And that's, you know, and we were talking about this just before the show. Like, I remember that whole thing. And I remember, like, it was a concept of a temporary thing. And I'll be honest, it didn't really dawn on me that you guys were still temporary in it there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think in my head it was just like for the hoarding thing and then whatever. But, like, you guys needed the space, so you stayed put, right? Yeah. And that sort of, I think, leads us to where we are now, right?
Well, even different. So that was January of 2022. Then in May of 2022, we had to expand.
Yep.
We needed more space. If we wanted to do more than just foster 20 animals at a time, we needed a shelter. And so we were able to secure, we had a very generous donor who assisted us with securing 2 more units in that facility.
Yep.
So we were able to have a quarantine space plus a shelter.
Yep.
And that was May of last year.
Right.
And now that takes us to
Now,
today.
yes, and I still, for some reason, I think of those things together, like
Yeah.
because it was the quarantine and then it was the so, so yeah. So, what are you guys doing now?
So last month we announced the grand opening of our spay and neuter clinic.
Okay.
It is public service. It's not just for our rescue animals and shelter animals. We offer spay and neuter surgeries to anyone. It doesn't matter where the geographic location is. The whole idea was to provide affordable access to these surgeries. It's our closest, low-cost spay and neuter resource is Cedar Rapids at IHA or Milan at Quad City Animal Welfare Clinic. And both of those are scheduled out so far. One is to August, the other is to September already. And we're
Wow.
only in March. We need access to it. That's
Right.
so many litters can happen between,
Right.
now and those months.
Yep.
So once we knew that this was a resource that this area didn't have anyway, we decided that was the next part of our mission. And it's here.
Well, and that's, for anybody roughly my age, plus or minus, and definitely on the plus side, we all grew up, if you didn't go to school, you watched The Price is Right. At the end of The Price is Right,
Yes.
Bob Barker would say, don't forget, I don't remember his exact words,
Spay
but
and neuter your pets.
have your pets spayed and neutered, right? And so, my first thought is vet, right? And they do that, right? But there's a cost associated, obviously. And they only have so much time, right?
Yes.
They've got, in addition to that, they're doing, just welfare, they're doing everything a vet does, right? And so, again, it's one of those little niches that the community definitely had a need, right? And you guys just sort of are rolling right on in, right? So how does it work if somebody has a pet that they need to have spay or neutered? How do they, is there a qualification process?
Nope.
What
they
do
just
they
call. They call
Okay.
down to the clinic. Our office gal, her name is Laura. She's awesome. She'll set them up. She'll walk them through the process. There's basically a menu of services that you can have added on at the same time. You can get heartworm tested. You can get your vaccines done. Get your preventatives, flea and tick, heartworm preventatives while you're there. And we're only scheduling out for the next week at this point. And we're still brand new. I'm sure, as
It'll
we
back
gain
up.
some traction,
Yeah.
it will. But the idea is that we want to remain a community resource that is effective.
Right.
So if we need to add on another surgeon, we'll add on another surgeon. Again, this space that we're in right now is temporary. It's time actually to start planning with an architect for what the permanent space is going to look like, and then that build will start.
Yeah, and that's awesome, right? So obviously, and I don't want to dive too far down into this, but for any nonprofit, sustainability is always critical, right? And I say this with all the respect in the world, short needs are usually the easy ones to handle, right? Going out and raising $7,500 for this immediate need because everybody saw on the news there's 28, I think it was, dogs and a cat. Everybody's like, yeah, hey, yeah, boom, right? The sustainability, those long-term support and the long-term need recognition is critical. And obviously you guys have been able to build that in the last few years, because otherwise you couldn't even be thinking about,
Community support has been insane.
Permanent spaces. And,
Yeah.
And again, that obviously also shows that the need's there. It's not just there's 28 here, or we're going to do a once a year spay and neuter clinic for 3 days, right? This is a regular need. So you mentioned surgeon. How does that work? Do we just have an extra surgeon laying around here, or how did you pull that off?
We hired a vet. We hired a whole staff. We have a vet, 2 vet techs, the office assistant, and 2 veterinary assistants.
Well, there you go.
We had to staff it, So, and when we get to the point where our books are full and we are scheduling out further than, I don't want to be scheduling out more than a month in advance.
Right.
We'll just add another surgeon.
Yep. And that's, again, that's kind of that matching the need function,
Yes.
right? It's, okay, right now we know there's a need. And I don't care what it is you're launching, right? Whether it's this or a business or whatever. You think you might have an idea of what the need actually is, right? Or what the demand is. Very rarely do you actually get it totally right. You know what I mean? Like, you sit there and go, you know what, I think we're probably going to need to do 10 a week of whatever it is, and right? And maybe the first 2 weeks it's 3, and then it's like 14, and then it's 22, and then it's 7, and you're like, and it takes a while to like figure that out. But the way you guys can scale is going to make it really nice for matching the need.
Yes, and that's our intent. Community service has always been one of the foundations of the organization. It's the and resources part of our name. We didn't ever just want to be an animal rescue. We always want to be able to meet whatever needs our community and the surrounding area has in regards to animal welfare. And this was a huge one.
And so that actually kind of like dovetails nicely into the vaccination function.
I'm going to let Jennifer talk about that part. It's her baby.
I wasn't the one who wrote that grant. You did.
Well, I know, but now you're the grant writer and you're in charge of all of it.
But you know what they're called.
Oh, so yes. Well, we'll talk about real quick. The vaccines, what we're talking about is a grant that we received through the Petco Foundation, Petco Love. They have provided us with hundreds of free vaccines, DAPPV, which is parvo distemper vaccine for dogs, and FVRCP or HCP for cats, which is panleukopenia. It's basically the parvo version of that for cats.
And isn't parvo the thing that is like bowels all get jacked up and like it's
deadly.
Yeah, it's so our dog was having a couple issues. We took him into Tasha, and like that was like the first thing they wanted to make sure it wasn't.
Yes.
Right. So I know nothing about vet stuff other than I know if you hear parvo and you can vaccinate, just do it.
Absolutely.
Like, just do it.
Absolutely.
You don't
like
wanna,
parvo is deadly, and
Yeah.
and it lives in the ground,
Yeah.
and it stays in the ground. And especially with years like this year, where we had a very mild winter, we did not get that deep freeze that we normally do. We're going to see a surge of parvo this year that is going to be scary. Now is the time to do it. Now is definitely the time. If you haven't already, you need to get your animals vaccinated.
Yep. And we had, so they didn't
Yeah.
think it was. It was just one of those.
For
like,
sure.
you still it's still the first thing you check.
You have to, because the thing is it's not impossible for a vaccinated or adult dog to get sick from parvo.
Yep.
It's just that the vastly more susceptible are those who are unvaccinated or young puppies.
It's almost like that's how vaccinations work. It's almost like how flu vaccinations, COVID vaccinations, are they ever a guarantee? No, they're not. They're not a guarantee that you're not going to get sick. What they are is your body's going to be ready for it, and chances are it can probably ward it off and it's not going to be a big deal. But if it does kind of take hold a little bit, it's not going to be as bad.
Exactly.
Right? And that's
symptomatically, it's much less
Right.
severe if you are vaccinated. And of course, as with anything with humans or animals, the young or the old are the most susceptible to dangerous outcome.
Yep.
But yeah, so we got the grant, and I will. Do you want to talk about that, or?
I can talk about that.
All right.
Talk about whatever you want. Open floor. Go for it.
Okay. Gosh, that's dangerous. All right, so
I'm in. Let's see. Let's see
I
what you
don't
got.
know if the world knows this, but Meg is not just my boss; she's my sister. So when I got a call from her like a month and a half ago, she was like, "Hey, we need a grant writer," and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I'm looking for a job."
That is in the nonprofit world.
She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I actually have to get a job. This is
Yeah,
terrible
and
timing."
in the nonprofit world, folks, that's a real conversation.
It is. I'm like, I could maybe help a little bit, but seriously, gotta find a job here. And Meg's like, no, this is a job. And so, I was happy to do it. I have some grant writing experience. I've been with the farmers market for 11 years. But when I started with It Takes a Village, my eyes were opened. I, as her sister, have had a front row seat to everything that has been happening for these past 2 years. But working side by side with her, she's so impressive. So impressive. The things that she has done, it's like, I feel really, really good to be a part of it, because whatever Meagan needs funded for, I believe she's going to make it happen. I've got to find the dollars, but she's got the vision, and it's going to be a reality.
Tell me that's not an asset. She's like, no, I'll find you the money.
That is.
Yeah, I know.
And that's whether it's, partners for a business, whether it's donors, whether it's grants, and that's the tough thing in a situation like this is, you've got to balance all three of those, right? You've got to balance, like your short-term, fundraisers, like when you need the 7,500 for this or
Right.
whatever, you've got to balance that and community awareness and, regular donors and building relationships with them, but then also grants, because any one of those sources is going to have ups and downs,
Yes.
right? Grants are going to come and go. Maybe you don't get one year, maybe you do. But you've still got to be, if you start the service, you still got to be able to make sure that somewhere or another you're going to be able to provide it. So.
Well, and that's the idea of the spay and neuter clinic. So it's not just providing the resource of surgical access to this area, but we don't have what some clinics do or organizations do. We don't have a CEO sitting at the top who's going to benefit from profitability.
Right.
We have set up our cost structure so that not only can we sustain the staff and have them well paid, because that's a whole nother issue. So
Right.
we talk about quality of life for animals day in and day out. Well, one of the most important facets of creating the spay and neuter clinic was quality of life for the humans. The animal welfare professionals across the entire industry are underpaid, undervalued, mistreated on a daily basis. Most people have heard about the not one more vet movement. And that's because veterinarians have one of the top rates of suicide of any industry.
Wow.
It's terrible. If they charge for their services, they're called greedy. If they don't make themselves available 24 hours a day, they're being selfish and they don't care about animals. That is a toxic
I get it.
train of thought, and it has resulted in the loss of some of our most valuable community assets, and we can't watch it. So it's not just vets. It's kennel technicians, it's vet technicians, it's everyone in animal welfare. We are changing the game. We can't change the world, but we can change it for us.
Well, and what's great, so I am not going to get these letters right. I'm going to try, though. Student, you know what, I'm not even going to try. The vet, I'm not even going to try. The vet tech students out at MCC were here for their fundraiser this weekend, last week. And that's one thing that, as they were talking about it, they love their job, right? And they love what they want to, or what they're going to be doing, right? And, that's the tough thing in the nonprofit world. And, you can also throw in like teaching, in some of those careers where it's just as much of a, absolutely. This is the wonderful thing about, my life.
How are you? She has a village doggy in her home.
Holdor is the cutest. He's the best baby.
So what do we have today? Stick that mic in front of her if you would. We got enough?
Thanks.
Hey, we got to, and folks,
it's
this is
Easter
not
time.
planned. This is not planned. This is just like the lovely things that happen.
Well, it's Easter time, so who does not love Cadbury eggs?
That's right.
So it's a caramel frappuccino, chocolate and caramel with a caramel center.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, your nails are cute too.
Thank you. A little bit of
Holy
St.
cow.
Patty's Day. Did you get the caramel?
I did. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I've got some blueberry muffin because warm blueberry muffins are also wonderful.
Delicious.
I'll take one for me.
Thank you.
Thank
Always
you.
good to see you guys.
So good to see you too. You give that baby a big old smooch for me.
You know
She's
I will.
got the big meat-headed dog. Oh, he's amazing. He's huge. I love him.
Okay. So I think I was after the alphabet soup of the vet association, whatever, but they're going into these professions because they want to, because it's what they want to do. And unfortunately, that also sometimes sets them up to be taken advantage of,
Yes.
right? Because it's what they want to do. So it's like, oh, you know what? For the mission, I'll take a little less, or I'll do a little bit of this. And it's kind of a catch-22 because it's an honorable thing to say, right? Like, I'll take a little less so that the mission can do what it wants. It's almost like their donation into the organization. And that's fine, and that's great. You want people that are there like that. But you also can't put them in a position where, like, they can't continue to do it, right?
Exactly.
And that's, that's always a tough balance to hit. So
It is.
obviously you guys are going
have
on
to,
the right way.
Balance is the exact word.
Yeah.
You have to not only make them feel appreciated, because they should be appreciated.
We're good.
It looks really good.
Sorry, I am still paying
you're
attention,
good,
I
you're
promise.
good. But you have to have work-life balance.
Yeah.
If you don't, you get burnout.
Yep.
And that's where we're at. As a society, we are burnt out. Even our vet colleges, like there's only a limited number of actual veterinary universities throughout. And actually, Jan Urseg from Critter Crusaders and I were just talking about all of this 2 days ago. out of all of these applicants, the small number of people actually getting accepted into vet school is minuscule compared to how many are applying. So it's not that there aren't people wanting to go into the field, it's that we don't even have the resources to educate them in the colleges. So we're turning out less vets every year, and yet they're leaving the profession. I forget the stat she gave. She gave a solid stat on the number of vets that are currently privately owned clinics, that it's some like 50 to 60% are either in the process of selling to corporate or selling the business entirely because they're retiring. And so many of these private owned clinics are getting bought out by corporate clinics, which is all well and good. It's a great exit strategy for someone that has a vet clinic.
Yep.
But what compassion and what relationship are you going to have when it's corporate structure? It's a real risk.
And it can be done. And you know, here's the tough thing about corporate structure is just a little, in general, they do tend to be more cold. They can be great, right? Like if, you know, say for instance you had a corporate structure with you at the head of it. That could work as long as you're really truly pushing that all the way down the organization. It can work. Those are rare.
I know.
Right? So oftentimes, or, you know, if they're corporate structured like Hy-Vee, and I just, because I'm sitting here and I know how they work, yes, they're corporate, but like the leaders here have a lot of local control, right? Like
for sure.
You know, and so it can be good, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to take the locally owned, I'm going to take the local nonprofit who has access to those resources, because then you know decisions are being made on the ground with what really needs to be done.
Yes. Well,
So-
and then you start to look at what control the doctors themselves have. So
Right.
with a corporate structure, as far as the vet clinic goes, the doctors don't have the final say. At that point, you have a CEO or a board of directors that is talking about bottom line, where when you have a relationship with someone like Tasha Wall,
Right.
she cares about the animal.
Yep.
Like it's all about the patient and the patient's parents. Thank you, Tasha. I love you.
Great story about Tasha, and I'm not going to tell the story to say, hey, she does this all the time. Like, Tasha, we know each other, we're PTO together, a whole bunch of stuff, long time, good friends. Sometime call her Chachi. Walk in and call her Chachi and see what her reaction is, and see if she tells you the story. It's her college nickname, who we met her college roommate through the University of Iowa Children's Hospital. Just this crazy story. But anyway, Chewy, no, Wicket, no Chewy, that's our 2 dogs.
Got it.
Had an IV. And with our daughter, we've done hundreds of IVs. Like, I mean, like nobody could not get the thing to run. Could not. She stopped by, had a glass of wine and fixed it. And it took her like 2 seconds and, you know, whatever. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that you get when you know the people helping you, right? And there's no price tag for that, you know, there's just not.
It's true.
Holy cow, we've gotten a lot.
Yeah, we derailed. I don't remember.
We totally derailed.
I snatched it away from you and was talking about.
Great.
So we were at vaccines and we were at the grants, and I mean, I think we pretty well covered that, like Petco, Love. Was there anything else on that? Because you had the open floor and then we took it from you. So
No, that's okay. Well, one thing I would like to say is that I recently had my first public speaking engagement, and I was asked how people can help. And that is, you know, we need the help of everyone. It really does take a village. This is a community effort. And I would say that we always have an Amazon wish list. We're never going to turn away dollars, but more than anything, we want individuals, because we always need fosters. We always need people to give loving temporary homes to these animals. It makes them more adoptable because we get to learn about their temperaments, about their personalities, cute videos and pictures we can share. So we always need fosters. We always need volunteers in general. We currently need clinic volunteers.
Yeah.
So, but there's always something to do down at the facility. So if you're looking to help in some way, it doesn't have to be financial. You're the most valuable resource we have.
easy plug. Easy plug. Go spend a little time.
Absolutely. Monday through Thursday, we've got multiple shifts and multiple positions available for volunteers
There you
at the
go.
clinic. You can do laundry. You can help recover animals after surgery, which is really sweet. You're basically just petting puppies and kittens and dogs and cats. And then there's also, if you're more hands-on, we've got room for a volunteer in what we call our pack room, where we clean and sterilize all of our surgical instruments.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
So, quick summary, because that was like drinking water from a fire hose. But that's what your organization's been for
It
2
really
years.
is. That's
It's
exactly
drinking
the
from a
truth.
fire hose. So, obviously, the big thing is, yes, you've set up this great sustainable thing, right? You've got the new spay and neuter clinic. Call down, schedule it. You've got the vaccinations available. Call down, schedule it. You've got spaces for volunteers. Call down, schedule it, right?
Yeah.
Or stop down. I'm sure they wouldn't mind if you just stop down. And be ready for, and this is the thing that you throw into the summary that you didn't actually talk about. There's a car show coming up.
There is.
When's the-
It's in May.
It's in
and
May.
this is our second annual
Yep.
It Takes a Village car show. Mike Smith puts it on for us, and he is well versed. So he puts on a lot of car shows. He does a great
Yep.
job. And this goes for our TNR efforts. So we get calls weekly about colonies of cats that have been found on a farm. They've been dumped here or there. And there's not an owner that's going to pay for their spay and neuter services.
Right.
So the idea is the TNR funds, like, it has its own allocation.
TNR stand for?
Oh, sorry. Trap, neuter, and release.
Okay, there you
So
go.
when you have stray or feral cats, you trap them, you take them in, you get them fixed, you get them rabies vaccinated. They stay in recovery place for 2 days, and then you return them back to where they were. And so there's not enough homes for all these cats that are out there. And the industry standard has really turned away from, oh my God, if you see a stray cat, you take it to the shelter. We're trying to get away from that. It's actually not what's best for the animals. More animals are euthanized in shelters than they are dying in the wild at this point. And that's even in Iowa. Like, that's not just a southern shelter thing. That's a here thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very sad. And if we want to avoid that, if we want to be more humane, then we need to just make sure that they're good, that
And
less of a nuisance.
Well, and obviously they were doing okay.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, maybe not.
They're much better off. So
Right.
fixing a cat, like when you speak of male cats, if they're not fixed, they're peeing on places that you don't want them to pee. Like, they may be marking around your property. You hear fighting more often. There are so many things that they are more susceptible to as far as being a nuisance goes and affecting the human population, let alone their own population, that can be negated by fixing them. And when you have them in there to get fixed and you vaccinate them, you also improve the environmental health of the area.
Yep.
You don't have disease spreading as fervently as you do without. So a healthy TNR program is actually really important for communities. Oh, yeah, and birds. Like, when we have this huge
Birds?
surge, huge surge of stray and feral cat population, your local bird population struggles because of it, because they are natural predators of the birds.
Of course. I mean,
This is a shocking number. I was just reading and writing about this yesterday, but in the U.S. alone, feral cats are responsible for killing 2.6 billion birds in the U.S. annually, and that's a conservative estimate. That was really shocking to me. So it's not
I
just
want to know
good-
how somebody estimates that. I guarantee you that's an accurate-ish number, as far as estimates go. Like, how do you even start? I guarantee you they know how to do it, but man, that's crazy.
So it's not just for it's obviously for the cat's health and well-being that we do it, but it's not just for the cats. It's for the communities, it's for humans, and it's for other critters that you wouldn't necessarily even think about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's true. And so on that line, like, it's important. It is very antiquated to think that round up and kill the cats is the effective way to assist with a homeless animal population. You know
Okay,
what I mean?
right.
Like, it's not humane. It's not even effective. There's something called a vacuum effect, where when you remove one cat from a colony, it's going to bring more cats in. They have a caregiver. They have a food source in the area that they're living, or they wouldn't live there.
Right.
Like, all you're doing is just bringing more in and creating more trouble, because that's then most likely a younger, more virile animal that is going to reproduce even more. So it's really important. Muscatine does not allow TNR within city limits, and this is our next, like, activist sort of movement. We want to get that changed. Community ownership is important here.
What is the disadvantage of having a TNR program?
Nothing.
Well, then,
There is
okay.
no disadvantage. This was kind of what dumbfounded us last year when we went to bat with animal control, trying to get this change implemented, because this is common sense. There is no negative. And the city doesn't even have to foot the bill. Like, that's the whole idea with us trying to get all these funds. And Jennifer, she is tirelessly looking for grant funding, so the financial resource needed. It's just a matter of, one of the biggest benefits of this is the community taking
Right.
ownership of this.
Yeah.
Because someone's like, hey, I've got these feral cats that I'm feeding at my house. They're not my cats. They're just strays that showed up. Can you help me? You know, can we get them fixed? Then we go get them fixed. They have someone taking care
Right.
of them. Cats are not dying. Like, this is the humane way to prevent more litters.
It'll be interesting to see how this all goes. I'm sure you'll keep us posted.
Oh, for sure.
I'm sure.
For
I'm
sure. We've had our plates pretty full, so we haven't been able to dedicate as much time and resources to working on that particular issue as we would like. But now that the clinic is open, here we come.
Consider yourself.
I'm just gonna make sure. I was gonna say, I'm just gonna make sure I stay out of the way when you're, like, here's the thing. You go, we'll follow behind, and we'll just make sure that I know where you're going, so that I can step out of the way and let you go.
And we appreciate you so much.
Oh.
You have done so much to put the spotlight on everything that we have done. We have been on this show countless times. You have given us advertising and Discover Muscatine articles about our rescue and every little thing we ever do. We're so appreciative.
Well, no problem. That's, thank you. We try. I mean, it's one thing that I told a guy who ran a nonprofit here in town for quite a while is, we have a megaphone, right? I can't yell into it for you, right? Like, but I can let you use it. You know what I mean? So, like, we can't, like, pay attention to every little thing you're doing all the time. But if you tell us, we can sure help make sure it gets out.
Well, I feel like we're starting to wrap up here, but I
Yeah.
do have one thing to say, and especially in regards to the issue of TNR. It Takes a Village has consistently been zero ego and all about what is best for animals. It's completely an animal welfare organization, and the outreach isn't just here. It isn't just in our city. It isn't just in our county or state. It's about saving all animals everywhere that we can. Going back to the transfer missions in the South, like, Meg has a very good grasp. She's got her finger on the pulse of the animal welfare community. If she says the TNR thing needs to happen, there are stats that back it up. All evidence backs it up, and it would be really good for Muscatine to get on board with this. There's no downsides. There really aren't any downsides, and I know a lady who can get some funding, so.
I know, she's so
Well,
good.
and I would imagine in a lot of cases like this, it's just like an education
It is.
level.
It
like,
definitely
you know,
is.
it's not like, please don't think that means that, like, oh, the city of Muscatine hates this thing.
No,
like,
no,
it's
no.
not,
Exactly.
not that at all.
Exactly.
That's not
It's
the,
not.
it's,
We have to
it's
advise
just one of those things that it's like, they're running a city, right? Like, you don't always
Exactly.
know all these things. And then when somebody like you comes along who's got that niche expertise, who can bring it in and be like, oh yeah, okay, this is a no-brainer, right? So, that's definitely not a, like, oh, we're doing absolutely the wrong thing.
Right. No,
It's
it's just
a learning curve.
Yeah.
when you know better, you do better.
Yep.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was like the breed ban getting lifted. People didn't know, and so there was fear there. There was a need for education, and our animal control officer, man, she took the reins. She did all the research. She put on a presentation that you just could not deny the facts, the numbers, the statistics, and it has been successful.
Well, that's good.
It has been wonderful. I can't say enough about her. Her name is Courtney Patel. We're so lucky to have her as a community. Like, I can't stop singing her praises. What she has done in the last year plus that she has been our ACO, like, she has eradicated more hoarding and neglect situations than probably Muscatine over the last 12 to 15 years combined.
That's nuts.
She's crazy. She's a robot. She's just a monster. She's just tearing after it. I love her.
I think she means monster in a good way.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
clarification.
she's
I
just
feel like
a
I need to
beast.
clarify a lot of
Yeah.
things here.
Yeah, no, she's not a monster. Like, she's a beast.
Yeah, no,
is what
I
I,
know,
meant to
yes.
say. Definitely used the wrong word.
No. No, monster's good. It's good.
Oh, I love her. She's good. She's
Awesome.
really good.
Awesome.
One other thing that this is just preliminarily in the works, but I want to kind of put the bug in some ears because this is something we're going to be looking for local sponsorship for. We're talking about having a summer program for kids this year. It will be an educational program. It's all very bare bones at this point, but we plan to come up with a pretty good program where kids can get educated not just on cats and dogs, but on some other local animals that they might encounter. But just putting it out
Mountain
there.
lion's not in that, is it?
No mountain lions.
There's a funny episode of, we've still got to talk about
Yes.
There's a funny episode of The Neighborhood where they had a mountain lion running through the neighborhood, and anyway. So tell everybody what you told me about.
Yes. So we were talking about plans for the future.
Yep.
And when we have our permanent facility. So we have all these plans are in motion. And one of the things that we were talking about was possibly having a cat cafe as part of our animal welfare complex.
And I just started chuckling to myself because one of the TV shows that my wife and I have started watching in the last 2 years or so is Maya Bialik's Call Me Cat, which is literally a lady who was, I believe, a math professor, some super hyper nerdy thing, who walks away from it and starts a cat cafe in Cincinnati. And they have, it's like a Starbucks plus cats, right?
Yeah.
And it's Maya Bialik. So it's funny. It's like a whole thing. But all I could think of was like, were you inspired by that to do this? And you're like, no, I never even heard of it. I'm like, how do you not watch that?
I know. There are so many shows that I need to be watching.
I think you just put a TV up and just put that on loop down there. Just like grab a Hulu and just like.
And who doesn't love her? She's Blossom.
Yeah,
Everybody
exactly.
loves Blossom.
Right. So.
Jeopardy?
She hosts Jeopardy now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, I don't watch TV. I had no idea.
Yep. She's busy. So,
Awesome.
ladies, thank you for coming in. It's
Thank
a
you for
blast
having
as
us.
always.
Oh, today's National Puppy Day. We
Oh,
almost forgot to say it.
There's so much. Again, like a fire hose, folks. Like a fire hose. Yes, it's National Puppy Day. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Are you supposed to do something on National Puppy Day?
You should. So we'll have a post up if we don't already. I'm sure Kara may already be on this, but I want to see pictures of everybody's puppies today on our village page.
There you go. Okay, so there's something you can do.
And you can adopt a puppy. We have tons of cute adult puppies, everything in between. We've got corgi mixes. We've got shepherds. I've got this Great Dane girl who is so beautiful. Her name is Jasmine. She's a Great Dane mix, and she is the most gorgeous merle-colored dog. So, seriously,
Awesome.
Okay, lots of cute
Okay,
puppies.
there you
need
go.
my puppies.
There you go. Go get a puppy today. Get two. They're small. Get two. I will say this. Best thing we ever did was get two. When we were going to get one for my daughter. We got up there, picked out a puppy because we went with Shorkies because they don't shed and, some stuff like that. And they're small and they can cuddle with Ainsley. And funny story. So we picked out the one. There was two left in the litter. And the other one, and he literally Chewy went up right behind Ainsley, the wheel to her stroller, and laid down and was like, "You're not going anywhere without me." And Melissa and I looked at each other and were like, "Can we do two?" And so this is no joke. I called my dad and I'm like, "Hey, would it be crazy for us to get two dogs?" Because, we had, a special needs daughter and the one dog was going out on a limb just because of all the stuff we had going on, right? And he goes, "Chris, think about it. We always had two dogs, right?" Yeah. He's like, "They'll entertain each other." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess." I walked back over and we took them both home, and it has been the best thing ever.
I'm glad it worked.
They entertain each other. Two is great. I mean, not that one's bad, but two.
We got four. You're
Yeah,
preaching to the choir.
Yeah, it definitely worked well. So anyway, lots of little asides there. Hopefully you guys found this entertaining. We did. We entertain ourselves if
Yes,
nothing
we
else,
did.
right? So quick recap, spay and neuter, swing down, call down if you need it. Also with the vaccines, you can volunteer. Just if you have anything that you want to do with animals, give them a call. Is basically what it boils down to.
The clinic number is 563-261-9176.
Yep, and we've had down at the bottom, we've had scrolling the Facebook page and some stuff like that
Perfect.
too. So
Thank
find
you so
them.
much for having us.
Hey, no problem. Well, have a good afternoon.
We will.
I think it's getting to be afternoonish, almost. Sure. Muscatine, enjoy the rest of your day.